Hello, and once again, welcome to another Movecraft update. So, we're getting ready to release the survival server, and we've realized that there's a number of things that we need to have in the plugin for that survival server, and one of them is the ability to have a spawn that moves with your airship. So on the survival server, one of the things that there's going to be is there's going to be these trade missions where you buy commodities in one port, then you fly to another port, and you sell those commodities at a profit. The result is you end up taking these really long trips. And if you just happen to die on one of these trips, like you fall off your airship and fall to your death, something like that, it's very, very frustrating that then you respawn halfway around the world and have to go find your airship, hopefully before someone steals it. So that's no fun. So to resolve that issue, we have added crew signs. They're very easy to make. All you have to do is you place a sign right over a bed, which will say crew : and then you put your own name. You cannot put someone else's name. It only allows you to do your own. Once that is done, every time this ship moves, it will see that sign and it will update my spawn point to be that bed. Now, accordingly, if that bed is ever destroyed, say because the airship sank, I will not respawn at the airship anymore. Instead, I will go back to whatever the server spawn is, or if you have another plugin that's handling your spawns, it'll go back into the into whatever that plugin comes up with. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Now, if you don't want this behavior on your server for whatever reason, you can disable the crew signs. In the config.yml, there's a setting, allow crew signs. It defaults to true. If you set it to false, then the signs no longer function. Alright, so that's easy. Now, the next thing we have is the new repair functionality. So I'm going to place a sign. I'm going to put simply repair : and then the next line needs to be a unique identifier for this ship, indicating basically just to keep it separate from all of the other ships that my player operates. So I'm going to call it my Typhoon. Now the third line doesn't have to be anything, but I'm going to put face north to indicate that to use this sign, the aircraft should be facing north. I'll explain why that's important in just a moment. So, first off, okay, so warships have become more and more complicated, and the weapons, particularly the cannons, are just crazy complicated these days. To the degree that I design the things, I can't even fix them myself. They're just too hard to get in there and fix in a survival environment. So, we added this repair functionality. In order to use this sign, you have to have the Movecraft.craft name, so in this case, Movecraft.subairship.repair permission. So that is a new permission you'll have to add. The way it works is if you left-click on the sign, and I'm going to leave creative mode just to make sure that I don't destroy my sign accidentally. If you left-click the sign, it's going to tell me I have to be piloting a craft. Yeah, okay, that's true. I do need to be piloting a craft. So I'm going to go to the front of this thing. That sign does not function unless you are actually in the command of a craft. That's how it knows what blocks to check, by referencing the blocks that are in the craft. So I'll take control of my little Typhoon here. Okay, and I'll head back to the rear. And now, if I left-click on this sign, it will say state saved. So it has taken a snapshot of the aircraft as it currently faces and as it currently exists. And it's going to keep that snapshot for future reference. And that's why it's so important that it says face north. Because this, because if I were to try to save a snapshot while the craft is facing north and then try to repair it while it's facing, say, east, those blocks won't match up. You see what I'm saying? So it's important that you always face the same direction when you use the repair sign. Okay, so left-clicking the sign saves the state. If I right-click the sign, it will attempt to do a repair. Now right now it's saying total damaged blocks, 0. Percentage of craft, 0.00. In other words, this thing isn't broken. Why are you trying to fix it, right? So I will now break something. I'll just punch through this wool, and right there. pick those up. Now if I right-click on it, it says, okay, you have 2 damaged blocks. It's not even 0.1% of the craft, but if you want to fix it, then you'll need 2 pieces of wool. The repair will take 0 seconds and cost $0. Okay. Now, this is all configurable. You can configure how many seconds it takes to repair each block. It's actually set per tick, and it's a setting that's in your config.yml, and it's called repair ticks per block. Similarly, you can set how much money it costs per block. I have it set to 0 for these tests, but you could set it to, say, $10 per block or whatever you want. On the survival server, I find that 10 ticks per block and $10 per block is about right. You do want there to be some kind of cost associated with this repair. The reason why is because you can use the repair system to replace fighters. So if I were to launch one of these fighters and then come back over here and repair the craft, it would say, oh, okay, well, these blocks are all missing. I guess I'll replace them for you. And you don't want someone to get infinite free fighters. And just requiring the wool and the parts to be in a chest somewhere isn't really enough. There should also be an actual cost, both in time and in money. But I think it is fine for people to manufacture or build fighters in the field from spare parts. I think that's reasonable, but I'm just saying there should be a cost associated with it. So, how this is going to work is if I right-click on this once to get the list of required materials and then right-click again within 5 seconds, it'll start doing the actual repair. So you right-click twice in order to repair. What it's going to do is it's going to search every single chest on this ship for spare parts. And I've got a bunch of spare parts in this chest right here. You see all this wool and all kinds of other stuff. And it's going to match those spare parts against the blocks that are missing. And if it has enough, then it will take the spare parts out of the chest, it will charge my bank account the amount that it lists, and it will take a certain amount of time. So I'll show you that right now. So click once to get the list, click again to do the repair, and it's instantly done, right? And you'll note that it says down here, tells me that it released my craft, and what it really did there is I am no longer in control of the craft while it is being repaired. Instead, the repair system is in control of the craft. It's still being piloted, and that's an important thing for you to realize. Because it's still being piloted, it could still be sunk. How do you say that? So obviously you don't want to do this in the middle of a battle. That would be a really bad idea, right? Because someone's going to come along and sink you, and you'll have spent all that money and then lost your airship too. And then the other part of that is you can't move it. So, maybe you could work your way around that, but, well, anyway, the point is, don't try to move your ship while it's being repaired. It'll screw things up, you'll waste materials, and it's no good. And then the last thing is, once it finally finishes, it says, repair is complete, you may now pilot the craft. And sure enough, I can go down here, and go all the way to the bridge, and if I take command of the craft, yeah, okay. So you see how that works. Now, you may have noticed in my chest full of spare parts, I had white wool, right? But it actually replaced black wool. So I didn't make it, let's see, I made it so that it doesn't care what color the parts are that it's going to use. I did that because otherwise it would be too frustrating having to match each and every color on your ship, and everyone would probably just make all their ships one color for simplicity, and that makes them ugly, and we just can't have that. We have to have good-looking ships on our server. So it does not care what the color is. That can have important implications. For example, slabs. So you could have a marble slab or a stone slab. It would treat them the same, which could be abused by your players if marble slab is really expensive on your server. So you'll have to figure out a way around that. I'm afraid that's just how it is for now. To me, what I would say is, well, make sure that your cost per block is high enough that it does not make it economically worthwhile to abuse the system and use it to turn stone slabs into marble slabs. In other words, if it costs $10 per block and marble isn't worth $10, well, then it won't make financial sense to do it. Alright, a few other quick notes. There are some things that the system is not capable of repairing. It cannot repair beds, and it cannot repair doors. And for the same reason, because a bed and a door is a single drop that turns into multiple blocks. In the case of a bed, it's one drop that becomes 2 blocks. And I just didn't want to deal with that, and I felt it wasn't very important anyway, because beds are cheap, and they're not vital to the functioning of the ship. Now, that does mean that when the repair is done, you need to go through your ship and look at all of the beds and the doors and make sure that they're where they're supposed to be and replace the ones that need to be replaced. But this system will get the vital systems like your weapons, your cannons, and all that complicated wiring. It will fix all of that. Alright, so far I've only shown you a pretty minor repair, just a few blocks on the ground. But what if you're cruising around in your beautiful and powerful warship when you accidentally... Let's see, I'm going to turn my turret first. You accidentally fire the gun too fast. That should do it. And what happens? It explodes. And if this hasn't happened to you yet, it will. So, yeah. Alright, so now you've got this big huge hole in the middle of your ship. Now there's one more thing that we need to talk about. So I turned that turret before it destroyed itself, right? So that's going to happen in the field, too. But there's a problem. When I saved my state, the turret was facing forwards. If I try to have it fix this right now, some of these blocks are still going to be here after the turret is facing forwards. Because when it is repairing a block, it does not remove extra blocks. It only replaces missing blocks, okay? So, what that means to you is, when you have something like this happen, if the turret is undamaged, simply turn the turret so that it faces the way it's supposed to face. If the turret is damaged, you're going to have to clean up the mess first so that it's a clean break before you try to fix it. So I'm going to hit GM1 just to make this nice and quick, and I'm just going to remove these extra blocks. I'm going to remove what is left of the turret. Okay. Now I'll go back to survival mode. And now that I'm back in as survival, I will go back to my repair sign and right click on it, and you can see this time there's just a ton of damage. There's all sorts of, I need a ton of wool and all kinds of other parts, right? So I know that I have a lot of that in these various chests, but I don't know that I have all of it. So to prevent me from having to check every single chest on the ship, if I simply tell it to initiate the repair, it will tell me what I'm missing. So that it says, okay, I'm missing a piston, I need a bit more wool than I have, and I need a fence gate. Okay, no problem. So I'll go back to creative. I'll give it a bit more wool. And I need a piston. And I need a fence gate. Not a dents, a fence. Okay. And now, if I right-click this sign again... Oh, apparently I didn't get the right piston. Yeah, because I didn't put it in there. Okay, well that wasn't too clever. Alright, but now for sure, there we go. Repair is underway. So, it will send me updates every minute, telling me how far along the repairs are. So on a real server, a repair like this is a lot of damage. So it's going to take a long time to fix and take a lot of money to fix, right? But on this server, I have it set to only take 1 tick per block, so it should repair it pretty quickly in about a minute. But if it was going to take longer, if it was going to take 10-15 minutes, it would keep sending me updates periodically. Alright, and then we skip a bit just because I don't want you to have to sit there and wait for it to finish. And as you can see, it eventually says your repairs are complete, you may now pilot the craft. And if I go back up here, I see, oh yeah, it has fixed all of that damage. So that's great. Now my craft is completely repaired, and I can right-click that. Now, okay, so currently it's advisable to do at least 2 passes with the repair system. I'll probably get this fixed pretty soon. Maybe it won't even be an issue by the time you see this video, but at least for right now, if I right-click this again, yep, sure enough, look at that. It didn't actually get some of the parts. This is typically only the situation when you have large repairs. Sometimes it needs 2 passes in order to get it, but usually the second pass is really quick. It's just a minor thing, and I'm just going to have it go through and run that again. Oh, apparently I need some more redstone. Okay, so I'll have to go back to creative. And by the way, this redstone would actually be, if I were to go up to where that gun is, I'm sure I would find it laying there. The actual problem has to do with the redstone. It's trying to place redstone on blocks that don't exist. Okay, there we go. It should only take a few seconds, and there it's done. So if I go up on deck, I will probably find the redstone that it tried to place. And just get up here. And there we go. And sure enough, yeah, there it is. Okay, well, yeah, I'll get that fixed. Anyway, so now the turret has been repaired. And the only thing that's left to do is these containers are now empty and will have to be refilled with TNT. And if it is a naval cannon, as this one is, you also need to make sure you know where to put the water. Because naval cannons, of course, require one of the dispensers to have a water bucket in it, and if you put it in the wrong one, your cannon will explode. So make sure you make a note of which one needs the water and you put it in there. On this particular ship, in order to refill this gun, I have to turn this turret so that I can reach some of the inner dispensers. And there we go. And then I'll crawl down here. And now I should be able to reach all of these. And if I had the TNT, I'd fill it in. But yeah, that is how it works. And now this gun is ready to fire, and the ship is ready to go. Okay, so those are the major new features. There's been a few bug fixes, as there usually is. Specifically, beds. There used to be a problem where beds would fall off the ship. Well, now that we actually can use those beds, I've fixed that so that that shouldn't be happening anymore. Also, there was a major spigot bug. So this was actually a bug with the spigot software, not necessarily with Movecraft. But it would empty containers depending on where exactly they were positioned, and I figured out a workaround for that. So I have implemented that workaround because I'm not sure if it's ever going to be fixed in the actual spigot software. So if you have been having problems with chests magically being emptied, this should fix that. That's about all I have. So thank you for watching, and if it has been helpful, then I would ask you to like the video and perhaps subscribe, and I will see you next time.